ça le service. Cái này mình làm tôi làm.
Hello guys, welcome to Aki on the Go. Finally, I can do this video because we are back home after being stuck in Australia for almost a year. What was supposed to be a 12-day visit had turned into 305 days. So, in this video, I will share with you our experience in coming back to China. It's a 7-week long journey before we are able to come back here in our apartment. So for those of you who are still outside the country and are getting to come back, I know exactly how you feel. When we were still outside the country, our anxiety was just getting worse. Getting hit by depression was no joke at all. So basically our mental health was just declining. It felt like our lives were on a halt and we're on a pause, and we just didn't know what to do, and we are confronted with this difficult situation where we have to make a decision, and we have to make that decision sooner because I'm only in Australia temporarily. So it was really crazy. I didn't know whether I'll go back to the Philippines, which was also in a lockdown, or stay in Australia, but I'm only in Australia on a tourist visa, so I have to keep on applying for a new one so I can stay in the country, or whether we'll forget about coming back to China and all these things. Finally, come September, China announced that the borders are already open for foreigners who still have a valid visa. However, our visa already expired in June, so we needed to apply for a new one. And the problem with that was the consulate in Brisbane was closed. So all of the correspondence, the communication was through email. Then we also needed to wait for our documents, our work permit card to be mailed to us from China to Australia. So the whole process took about a month. We were so relieved when finally our visa got approved. Then the next step for us was to book a flight, and this was actually one of the most difficult steps for us because we didn't book a flight ahead of time because we were not sure if our visa will be approved or not, and so we didn't want to take that risk. So finally, when it got approved, that's when we started to look for flights, which had proven to be super difficult and very, very expensive. This step really gave me a lot of headache. My partner was already about to give up. So I started calling different airlines because we cannot really trust the information on their websites. And that's when we found out how much it is. So from Sydney to China for a direct flight, the cheapest was around $5,100. Or around 27,500 renminbi. So that was very shocking because there are two of us. So that's like more than 10,000 Australian dollars and like more than 50,000 renminbi. That's a lot of money. And when I did this, when I called them, it was around November. Like the first week of November, and the earliest flight was the end of December. So we still have to wait like more than a month. And when I tried different airlines, the price is just getting worse, like 37,000 renminbi. So I don't know, I felt like, is there any other choice for us? Fortunately, one of my classmates in the postgraduate study shared this information with me and told me that there are actually WeChat groups for foreigners stuck outside China. So if you are in Australia, there's a WeChat group for those foreigners in America and other countries. And at that point, she just got back from France. So I was very lucky that she was able to share that information with me. So I joined the WeChat group, And that's when I gathered more information about coming back. So my partner and I thought of different routes in coming back, and none of them just seems to work because most of these countries are also banning foreigners and not allowing transit flights. So when I joined the group, that's when we learned that there's one possible option, which is via Singapore. And we won't have to spend as much for the flights. The WeChat group was actually a massive help because everyone was just so generous with the information that they come across, and two of the members actually made a document so we can all just go through the document of every single thing that we need to do. And that was really useful, and that gave us hope that, oh, actually we can probably go back. The list is quite extensive. There are so many things that we need to do first and so many things that we need to consider. Then the next thing we did was to apply for an exemption to leave Australia. I didn't need it because I'm not a citizen, but my partner needed to apply for one. So we just did it online and attached all the documents we think would help his application. He was very nervous about it because we just really didn't know what could happen. And we were very lucky that after about 20 to 30 minutes, we got the email back and he got his exemption. So that was around November. Recently, I heard though that if you are applying for this exemption, it will take you a couple of days, even weeks, to get the reply because of the high volume of applications. But you'll get it as long as you have all the necessary documents to support your application. Then we needed to secure an air travel pass from the Singapore consulate or Singapore embassy so we can actually get in to Singapore. So this was also via online application, and we got it in like within an hour. So we're very relieved that that process was also successful. Then we thought of doing a nucleic acid test and the IgM antibody test in Australia. They weren't really a requirement to enter Singapore. However, we were just being cautious in case China will ask for it because we came from Australia, so we did it anyway. Other than the test in Australia, we also pre-booked an on-arrival test in Singapore because that was a requirement. Also, we needed to pre-book another COVID test and blood test at least 48 hours before our flight back to China. And then, of course, book our accommodation in Singapore because we needed to wait at least 48 hours to get the result of the on-arrival test. So when all the papers are in order, all the flights are booked, the time has arrived for us to travel. We're leaving from Brisbane Airport and there's really not that many people. And there's only one airline operating at the moment, which is Singapore Airline. So off to Singapore. Hi, we're boarding our flight to Singapore and there's not that many people as well. We arrived in Singapore in the evening. It was very organized. The process was very smooth. They have people every single step of the way to assist and guide us as to what we needed to do. So after passing through immigration, we'll just have to walk a few meters and then sit around this area and wait for our turn to have our information registered. And also this is the part where we have to show them the proof that we have pre-booked the tests online. And then on the opposite side, that's where they would do the swab test. If you want to know how was the swab test there, I think that was the worst. I experienced it. It really made me sneeze and teary afterwards. So after the swab test, we needed to pass through immigration again and then get our bags, and then we're off to our hotel. So we are required to stay inside within 48 hours until we get the result of the test, which is very fast. We got it like 6 to 10 hours later. So when I woke up, I received the email of the negative result. The next step was to do the COVID test again and the blood test, which should be within 48 hours before we flying to China. So we did that at Raffles Hospital. They were also very efficient and we got the result the next day. If you're going through this process, please always make sure that your name is correct, your birth date is correct, your passport number is correct, your citizenship or your nationality is correct. And the next very, very important step is to upload those results online for the electronic health declaration so we can get the green code. For me, this was very nerve-wracking because I didn't know whether I'll get that green code or whatnot. So after I uploaded the results and uploaded the other information, I was just really sitting on the bed, not moving, and I was numb because what if I don't get the green code? I'm already in Singapore. What would I do next if, in case something will go wrong? So I was basically holding on to dear life just to get that green code. So after like the longest 30 minutes of my life, I refreshed the page and finally it turned green. So we were so relieved. Recently we heard that it already took other people a couple of hours, even the next day, to get the green code or to get approved. It can be a very stressful moment while waiting for that green code, that most important thing. Although we were quite relieved to finally receive the green code, the nervousness and the anxiety started again the next day when we were heading to the airport. It's the kind of nervousness where you felt like you're gonna faint any moment. And I can feel my heart in my throat, that kind of anxiety. On the way to the airport, I was really, really nervous. I didn't know how to calm myself down. And we just didn't really know what to expect. We didn't know whether the visa and the green code would be enough. Fortunately, the process at the airport was very smooth. All we needed to do was present our green code and our passport, of course, with the visa. And that was it. We were able to check in. And of course, we needed to scan several codes because we needed to register online. The online form is in Chinese, so if you don't speak Chinese or Mandarin, you will need a translation app, or you can also ask the people or the employees at the airport to help you or assist you, or you can be friendly with the other passengers and they can also help you as well. At the boarding gate in Singapore, I was actually quite surprised that most of the passengers are wearing hazmat suits. But somehow I felt relieved and safe that they are actually very conscious about the virus. Oh, the queue is already long.
各位乘客，欢迎抵达广州。我们提前了15分钟到达，现在是当地时间早上9点10分。请继续系好安全带，直到系好安全带的指示灯熄灭为止。
So we have landed in Guangzhou, but we're still on the plane and we're getting off by road, but it's quite slow at the moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are paging for 4 passengers.
Finally, we arrived in China. It was also organized. They have people at the airport who will assist you and guide you every step of the way. So the first thing we did was to line up. And of course, we needed to scan some codes again and register our information. And then after that, we walk outside the airport where there are several containers. And that's where the swab test is actually being done. After the swab test, we went back inside the airport and passed through the immigration. At the immigration, I was also very nervous. She just asked some few questions, like which city, like where is my final destination and all that. That was quite quick. The longest part was getting the bags. This is probably the part which took the longest because the flight was actually full. So that's probably, it took forever for our bags to be taken out. So yeah, we're just waiting for it and we're so exhausted. So after getting the baggages, we were on the way to the exit where they handed us like this boarding pass looking thing, which we have to present to the bus driver. So here we lined up to wait for the bus. It was quite a long queue. We waited quite a while. So we're already on the bus and we're going to our hotel, which we don't know where. Actually, I was wrong. This bus took us to another place where we have to wait for another bus that will eventually take us to the hotel. Then we were brought to this area where we had to line up and then hop on the next available bus. So the hotel, it's luck of the draw. We are now heading to the hotel, which we don't know where yet and what it's gonna be like, so we'll find out. Oh, that's actually our hotel. So all in all, from the time we landed in Guangzhou up to the time we arrive at the hotel for the quarantine, it took us about 7 hours. So it actually it's different every city. Some people it took them 2 hours, some people it took them 4 hours, some even 8 hours. So it actually varies. For us, it took a while because we were brought to a different city outside of Guangzhou and the travel time took about 2 hours, probably because the hotels in Guangzhou or around the city were already full, so they needed to bring us to somewhere else. So we stayed in Singapore for a week and we had our hotel quarantine outside Guangzhou city for 14 days. And then I will share with you our quarantine experience in another video, so please watch out for that. So if you have questions about hotel quarantine, you can also ask me. Just leave your questions in the comment section and I'll try my best to answer. After the 14 days quarantine, we needed to do additional 7 days self-isolation. Apparently, according to our school, it was the policy of the local government. So we did that. Our school still didn't allow us to go back to our apartment even after doing the self-isolation for 7 days. They actually wanted us to stay out of sight for a month. That is why the journey from the day we left Australia until we arrived here at our apartment took about 7 weeks. Because we were not allowed to go back to work and we were not allowed to come back to our apartment for safety precautions perhaps. Right now, the policies, the rules are changing rapidly. So on top of the 14-day quarantine, other cities require you to do +7, like a self-isolation, or in other cities, it's 14 plus 14. So that's 14 days hotel quarantine plus another 14 days home quarantine in your communities. If you're outside China and in the process of coming back, I suggest you join WeChat groups, especially those groups for foreigners stuck in specific countries. It would be helpful and it will also provide you support, that you're not going through this alone. And to get updated with the latest news, the latest update with the policies and the rules, I also suggest you go on news agencies or follow news agencies on WeChat. keep in contact with your employer. Make sure you clarify the information with your employer because once again, the rules, the policies are changing rapidly. So every city or every province, they can have different rules or different policies. Right now, strict measures and travel restrictions for both the local people and foreigners are in place, especially during Spring Festival. So traveling around this time would require you to present a negative nucleic acid test, and you may also be required to do a 14-day quarantine, even if it's just domestic travel. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I may be able to help you find the answers. That's it for now. Please consider subscribing, like and share, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. I will see you in my next video about our hotel quarantine experience. And hang in there and stay safe. Remember, anything is possible.